Yes, it was very clear early on that the officials that were coming to talk had been briefed not to give any kind of numbers or fatalities of survivors. They said that they wouldn't discuss the investigation. That was something that would start after the recovery operation had been concluded. What they did say is that at about 8:48 local time, they received a notification that there had been this mid-air collision, and when they arrived on scene 10 minutes later, they found two aircraft in the water. Now, the fire chief here said that there were about 300 responders. He said it was a very complex operation with a whole host of federal and state responders trying to respond to this crisis, saying that the conditions are extremely rough and that it was cold and relatively windy. We know that the water temperature at the moment is about 35 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hovering around zero. And of course, the plane crash happened just before 9 p.m. local time, so it has been some hours at this point. Now, local news and CBS is quoting a police source saying that 18 people have been killed so far. That number, I must stress, has not been confirmed by any official authorities at the moment. We're still waiting to find out exactly what the fatality count is. There's also been reports of a couple of survivors that also have not been confirmed. We're waiting to find out more about that as well.
Now, one of those speaking was Sean Duffy, the new Transport Secretary, on his very first day in the job. He was only confirmed yesterday. Now, both he and the Defence Secretary, Pete Hegseth, the two of them, both former Fox News presenters, are likely to face a very challenging first few days in the job, especially considering that a military aircraft was involved in this collision.
Yeah, we know that, of course, that Secretary Duffy, very fresh in the job, literally hours old in that position, has been dealt a very hard hand to deal with in his first day on the job. This is the biggest commercial plane crash in the United States since 2009, to give you some idea of how rare this kind of situation is. Well, we know that he, along with Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, freshly confirmed by the Senate just a few days ago, were both in the Situation Room with President Donald Trump and were being kept abreast of the situation and going over the situation. Now, of course, there are going to be many questions as to how this could have happened. The airspace around DC is strictly controlled, and there are very strict regulations in place around DC, not only because of noise and the like, but also, of course, national security reasons as well. The Pentagon is just a stone's throw away from DCA Airport, where we currently are. Of course, just across the other side of the river is the National Mall with the White House and the Capitol building as well. So the airspace here is very strictly controlled. The only entities that can operate apart from those commercial aircraft are those military helicopters, which tend to fly low and fast along the river, along the Potomac River, back and forth to the various army bases that are along there. So there will be questions as to how this happened and how it would have come into pass. We know that this helicopter was a Black Hawk helicopter, an Army helicopter, and we know that it was on a training flight from a Fort Belvoir, which is not too far away from DC, about 40 minutes to the southwest. So there will be questions as to what they were doing in this airspace, and I'm sure that will all come out in the wash. We know, obviously, the rescue operation is still ongoing, and we are still waiting, of course, to also find out more about the actual investigation. That has been handled by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority, and the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board as well. They are an agency which has a history of dealing with plane crashes. That is their bread and butter. They have covered some of the biggest and investigated some of the biggest plane crashes, the most famous plane crashes in the world, including the 737 MAX Lion Air flight that crashed in both Indonesia and Ethiopia. And we are also hearing from Donald Trump, the other main voice coming out of this evening. He released a statement through the White House saying that he was being kept abreast of the situation, but as is quite often the case with Donald Trump, we were given a more revealing look into his thoughts on his Truth Social platform. He tweeted, "The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane. This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented, not good. So some slight insight there potentially from Donald Trump, who said, why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? So that may reveal that he has some information that we have not been made privy to, and may have heard some of the air traffic control tapes that we have not yet heard. So a slight insight there to Donald Trump's thinking. But yes, so far, facts on the ground still relatively thin.